This is a meeting of the Southfield Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered as a community meeting. There are 2 opportunities for public participation during the meeting, and comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual. The board will listen to comments but may not respond during the meeting. If you wish to address the board, please submit a comment card immediately. Roll call: Ashanti Bland, Board President.
Darrell B. Joyce, Vice President.
Yvette Ware Duvall, Board Secretary.
Amani Johnson, Board Treasurer.
Charles Hicks, Board Trustee.
Michael Bennison, Board Trustee.
Dr. Jennifer Green, Superintendent, and taking minutes this evening is Miss Carolyn Foster.
May we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Bennison, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board matters. I have a couple of board matters, the first of which is regarding the school safety community town hall that will be taking place. It's changed a couple of times, so let me make sure. Is it tomorrow?
It's
Dr.
tomorrow.
Green? Tomorrow, it's a virtual town hall, considering that it'll be roughly 100 degrees with the heat index. There is a link available. I believe that it has been dispersed to students and families of Southfield A&T. Dr. Green, correct me if I'm wrong.
You are partially correct. It has been disseminated to the families of the students of Southfield A&T and also to all of the potential families coming of the rising freshman class.
Thank you. Sure.
Yes, it's on your calendar.
So this town hall is to briefly allow the administration to discuss some matters that have taken place at the high school, but give our community a question to an opportunity to ask questions, vocalize their concerns, get familiar with the student code of conduct and handbooks that are passed out. I think it's very important that our community understands that when your children matriculate through this district, you sign off as well as your student signs off on a student code of conduct. We take that very seriously. I think that we forget during the hoopla and all the rush to get everything we need for the start of school that we signed the code of conduct. And we sign handbooks. And I think it's important that the community holds their children and we hold parents and each other accountable to doing what we signed off on doing. That's one key to keeping our children, our staff, and our community safe. I know Ms. English has been working hard to ensure that the building has what they need to be prepared for this. So I encourage the community to join us for that. And just to know that this coming school year, as we have always done, we take safety extremely seriously. Mr. Jackson, along with the rest of the administration team, have been putting together these emergency operating procedures. So we are definitely on the right track to ensuring that Southfield is a safe space. I'd also like to say congratulations to the kindergartners who are now first graders. Congratulations to the fifth graders that are now sixth graders. And congratulations to our seniors who are now moving on to what may arguably be the best time of their lives. I can remember my senior year of high school and graduating. So I just would like to say congratulations to all of those students and their families.
Eighth grade.
Trustees, are there any other board matters?
You just forgot 8th grade.
I forgot eighth graders going to ninth grade. I apologize to you wonderful middle schoolers who are now high schoolers, and and the Bussy babies who were pre-K going into kindergarten. I forgot there's all these ceremonies. I saw pre-K proms. I was like, what? I'm
Not
missing
here,
out on a lot
not
of
here in
stuff.
Southfield.
So yes, our Bussy babies moving on to kindergarten, kindergartners, to first graders, fifth graders, sixth graders, eighth graders, ninth graders, and our seniors who are moving on to start their adulthood. Congratulations. Thanks for that, Trustee Hicks. Any other board matters?
President, you mentioned that the safety training is tomorrow at 6:30. Just wanted to lift the time, 6:30 to 7:30 virtual.
6:30 to 7:30 virtually. Thank you, Trustee.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Board matters?
Board President, if I may add, the Southfield Police Department recently assigned a new sergeant to work with the school resource officers. Her name is Sergeant Young. We had an opportunity to meet with her earlier today to discuss the expectations of the district, to hear what their expectations were from their lens of the district, and to discuss the problems as we saw them this year, one of which is definitely that of the traffic there on Losser for McIntyre as well as for Stevenson. And then, of course, we discussed the traffic flow in and out of the Lathrop campus as well as for our new drivers on the A&T campus. So we had a very productive meeting. It lasted approximately an hour, and Sergeant Young assured us that she would be very visible, not only throughout the summer, but throughout the school year as well.
And one thing I did forget, I forgot to thank Donna Stallings for her gift of $500 scholarships to our students, as well as Mr. Williams of Ecclesia, am I saying that correctly, who gifted our students with 7 $1,000 scholarships. So I would be remiss if I did not thank him and her at this moment. That is it for board matters, if no one else has anything further.
Because we are educators, she is now Dr. Donna Stallings as of last
Well,
night.
congratulations
So I
to
would lift
Dr.
that
Donna Stallings
into
of
the
Lathrop
conversation.
Village.
Quite
Yes.
proud of her.
Very good.
Thank you, Board President. Again, congratulations to the class of 2022. It's so hard to believe. I remember when we ushered in 2000, and to now think 22 years have passed. Time goes by relatively quickly, so please enjoy every moment. There was one hiccup with the diplomas. Jostens printed the diplomas incorrectly. It was a lesson learned. We've worked with them. The team has developed a process to switch out the diplomas to ensure that our students have the correct official documents. All students will receive those directions, and we have been assured that they will be to us within the next 2 to 3 weeks. I did receive a proof, and the proof was correct. We are going back to the traditional 4 signatures to ensure that this does not happen again in the future. But I did wish to share that with our community, let them know that we are aware of the mistake, and we are working feverishly to correct that and get their correct documents in their hands.
Dr. Green, I would like to ask you to share with the community. I know it has not been all tied together, but the administration as well as the building administrators are putting in some very robust planning for the end of the year. From a board perspective, it will allow us to plan for the end of the year events at the beginning of the year. For community and student perspective, if you could speak on
Absolutely.
that.
There are 2 different things happening, one of which is the calendar that is being developed. In education, we do a lot of backwards design or backwards planning, begin with the end in mind. So we started with June of next year. What is it that we wish to see for our young scholars as they move on to their young adulthood, as you mentioned? And we worked backward throughout the entire calendar and have progress monitoring built in throughout the entire year. What is expected of the district office, what is expected of the building level leaders, and at what times, what cadence will we come before the Board of Education to provide you with updates as well. So you will receive more frequent updates next year relative to where we are with the senior class for the class of 2023. The other thing that is happening for next school year is that of a change of venue. I know that the Aretha Franklin Amphitheater is a beautiful facility with an opulent view. However, with the Grand Prix moving back to downtown Detroit next year, it would not be fair to our scholars, to their families, or to our staff to have to fight that traffic to get to the Aretha to see their scholar being recognized. That being said, Mr. Jackson, along with Mr. Curran and a small committee, they are developing a rubric to explore different venues, and they will actually score those venues, and then we will bring all of those results back to the Board of Education to decide on a new venue for this next year. If it is affordable, we are going to look at doing a 2-year rolling contract to ensure that we're not in the same predicament each year, but it gives us an opportunity to have a year out to decide if indeed the venue is going to meet all of our needs. But all of the things that we've heard from you, and if there's anything additional that you wish to add, please forward that information to Mr. Jackson, copy me on it. As we develop that rubric, you'll be able to follow the progress along the way. Next on my agenda is that of remote learning for tomorrow. Tomorrow's heat, as Board President mentioned, is going to be quite oppressive. With the heat index, it's expected to be between 105 and 110 degrees relatively early in the day. Given that we have scholars scheduled to take final exams tomorrow, we definitely wanted to err on the side of caution, 1, for their health, and 2, for their academic performance, and afford them an opportunity to take those final exams remotely. Therefore, the district as a whole will be closed tomorrow in terms of the physical buildings, but all students will have an opportunity to learn online. So thanks to the teachers union, the parapros, the administrators, and everyone for working together to ensure that all of our scholars remain safe for the very last day of school. Any questions? No? Okay. Next is the legislative update. I wish they were moving a little faster relative to the budget, but I guess it's a lot faster than when we didn't receive the budget until October. We're hopeful that sometime between this week and next week, we may have an actual budget coming out of Lansing. They are still vacillating on whether that will give us a per pupil increase of anywhere between $300 at the low end to $500 on the high end. So we are planning our projections right there in the middle to ensure that we don't go too far over. If we indeed get that budget from the state prior to us having the lunch and learns with the board, and then of course the budget conversations, we will adjust our budget accordingly. So right now we are still in limbo, as we find ourselves often this time of year, but we are quite hopeful that they are moving in the right direction. There was conversation regarding the gas tax, but that conversation seems to have stalled at the pump. No pun intended, but I don't think we were going to see any relief there. That being said, one of the things we're going to do for our staff this summer, because there is a limited staff here in the summer, we're going to do a little R&R, which is rotating remote. We're going to allow one staff member from every department to work remotely each week to afford them an opportunity to save on at least a tank of gas so they don't have to come into the district. Every department will have staff in the district, but it will afford at least every staff member 1 week to work remotely this summer to give them a break on their gas. The other legislative update is very near and dear to my heart, and I know it is near and dear to many of your hearts as well, that being the USDA food waiver that we've had for the last 2 years. It is due to expire on the 30th of June. Senator Stabenow is working hard to try to see if we can get that extended through September. Right now, it looks good on one side. The other side is still deciding whether or not they will do that. However, we are looking for some alternative programs for our families that are experiencing food scarcity. Most recently, the governor did extend the EBT services for families. We have approximately 1,200 families that qualify. We are contacting them to let them know how to move forward with that process. And if anyone else knows of a family in our district that is in need, of food or other basic needs this summer, please by all means contact Mr. Aaron Marshall, Mr. James Jackson, or contact me, and we will connect them with the appropriate parties to ensure that our families have what they need to be successful this summer.
Through the chair, I have a question for Dr. Green. Dr. Green, is this in lieu of the question that was raised by a parent that I had mentioned that there was a few districts that were on the EBT? Is this along the same line?
This is along the same lines. This is in addition to what you lifted to my attention. We did go through the Michigan Department of Education and fill out all of the appropriate paperwork to ensure that anyone in our district having completed the form, which is extremely important, and I know we had this conversation this time last year, for every student that qualifies for free or reduced lunch in the district, they qualify for certain benefits. So it's extremely important that we get that form completed. And it does not roll over each year. It has to be completed annually in order for the students to qualify. The past 2 years, the federal government issued a blanket waiver for all students. So many did not get in the habit of completing that form each year. We are now going back to a time where that form must be completed in order for them to receive the additional benefits.
Thank you.
Through the chair, Dr. Green, you don't have to give an answer now, but just out of curiosity, with last year, majority of our staff were working remotely. Is there any rationale or reason why we should have staff coming in over the summer when they can work remotely?
Actually, no, we've thought about this greatly, and that's why we're going to do the rotating remote. We want to make sure we have at least one person in every department to service our community because people do come in.
Is there a big need? Is there a big...
In certain departments, such as technology, for example, when they want to come in, swap out their items if they have issues with their technology. So that is something that we can take under consideration by department. Pupil accounting, for example, they have an influx of families coming in during certain times for student enrollment. Not all departments, and we could definitely look at expanding that to give our families, to give our staff some more relief this summer. We're also going to the 4-day per week, with Friday being closed completely for additional maintenance and cleaning, and then Monday is an automatic remote day. So on Monday, no one will be in the district. At a bare minimum, we'll have staff Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in those respective departments. We're trying to balance servicing our community and providing support to our staff.
Okay. Thank you.
If I could, I just wanted to recognize for the minutes that Trustee Leslie Smith-Thomas is present.
Thank you.
And last but definitely not least, under the report of the superintendent, the Head Start Director's Report for April of 2022, that was sent to all trustees in advance and attached to your document. Director Hill is here this evening if there are any questions of Director Hill this evening. I see you.
Trustees, do you have any questions regarding the Head Start report? Hearing none, thank you, Director Hill, for being here.
And for the record, the babies at Bussey will be in school tomorrow because of your generosity in giving them a chiller this year. So their building is nice and cool, and our families asked if they could come in tomorrow. So of course, we want all of our scholars to have that opportunity. So Bussey babies will be here tomorrow. That is all that I have, Board President.
Action items A and B, 6105 and 6106, Personnel Action Report and Personnel Action through June 10th, 2022. Trustees, any discussion, any questions?
Board President, if I may just state that the reason that they're separated, Report 6105 was the report that you saw the last time you met, in which I was not physically present. The report 6106 takes us from that date to present date. And we thought it would be easier to separate the two.
Trustee Smith-Thomas?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm looking at report 106. So we have candidate number 10 present at any point to be formally introduced to the board.
We can arrange for that to happen at the very next meeting.
And I would also ask, I think it would be appropriate, the community as well, particularly the parents.
Board President, if I may.
Dr. Green?
As part of the interview process, one of the sessions we had was for the parents to come in and meet the candidates and to actually provide feedback. So we did have one opportunity. We had, level 1 was that of the staff and students providing feedback and scoring. Round 2 was that of the executive team scoring. Round 3 was meeting with the superintendent and the CAO. Then we had the public forum for the parents to provide feedback, and now that the decision has been made and the candidate has accepted the position, we will most definitely make sure that the community, the staff, the students, and all other stakeholders have an opportunity to meet not only that candidate, but the other candidates that we will onboard throughout the summer with our retirements occurring in a few of our buildings.
Thank you.
Vice President?
Just out of curiosity, is there any reason why he's not, number 10 is not here today, or any of the other folks, why they're not here today to introduce them to the board?
Well, number 10 is actually a sitting principal as we speak. Accepted the position earlier this afternoon,
Okay.
Which is why I spoke with the board president and then emailed the trustees regarding the acceptance of that position. So if timing would allow, that individual could have been here. Unfortunately, timing did not afford us that opportunity today, which is why I will arrange for that person to be at the very next meeting.
So there's the reason why I brought that up, because we're going to hear that feedback from folks out there, why he wasn't here. So that gives us an answer that we can give to other people.
Absolutely.
Trustees, any other discussion regarding reports 6105 and 6106? Hearing none. Board Secretary, please call for the vote. Oh, disapproved, sorry. I apologize, I've been going for
I
it.
move that report 105 and 106 be open and approved.
Support.
Second. Board Secretary, please call for the vote.
Trustee Bland?
Yes.
Trustee Bland?
Yes.
Trustee Hicks?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Joyce?
Yes.
Trustee Benison?
Yes.
Trustee Smith-Thomas?
Yes.
Myself, yes, unanimous.
Motion carried. Before we go to information items, I did not give Trustee Smith-Thomas an opportunity to report out. I know that there was a election and you represented our district. Would you care to share the results of that?
I would actually, because it's not the only item I have, and I
Sure.
did miss board matters, I will save them for the good of the order.
Understood.
Thank you.
Information items. Report 6031, Bernie K through 8, temporary roof stabilization.
Thank you, Board President. Actually, that was the original information item, and we had that one on there first because we wanted to recall to your memory the conversation we had several months ago regarding the stabilization of the roof at Bernie, and the conversation ensued after relative to why are we putting this money in when we should just go ahead and replace the roof. So now we have report 60108, Bernie K8 roof replacement, which was a direct result of the last meeting for 6031. And I'd like to publicly say welcome back to Ms. Venable, who just returned to us from her leave, and we are so excited to have her back. So Ms. Venable, if you would please go to the mic and address any questions that the trustees might have relative to replacement, the roof replacement at Bernie.
Good evening, Honorable Board. If there are any questions regarding the information item, hope to be able to answer them.
So I have the first question, Ms. Venable.
Yes, sir.
What was the cost of that replacement?
The cost of replacement? So the bids that were returned, there was only one interested contractor, and the bid is $2.3 million. I believe the recommendation is for 2.5, not to exceed, which
to
includes
afford contingency.
contingency.
Any other questions?
So if you recall previously, and Dr. Green mentioned it, the roof stabilization project that was presented in November was just to get us through the winter months because the roof it had so many leaks. And during that time, a report was shared with you on the condition of the roof as is and photographs. Do you remember that? So you can see where there was shrinkage, the roof was pulling back, it was an older roof, and we actually estimated about 2.6, just based on industry standards and estimated costs. So right now we're below what we estimated back in the winter, but it was a good estimate at that time.
And we definitely want to protect the investment of the recently purchased HVAC upgrades.
Right.
Mr. Hicks.
Trustee Hicks?
Oh, thank you. Board President, the question that I had was more of a statement.
Sure.
Over the past couple of weeks, I've seen some miscommunication on what the sinking fund dollars has been appropriated to and where we are and what's outstanding. Just for transparency's sake and clearing up something in simple and clear language, maybe for the website or communication to the community, if we could just put out what's remaining, kind of some bullets on what we've spent money on thus far, just so that folk are aware and can understand what the money has gone toward. I also ask for this report because I know all of the supply chain challenges. Should we make this an actionable report?
Yes. You were on par with where I was going with this. Your list about showing how we've used the sinking fund dollars and what projects they have covered has been lifted. Previously, I think we were waiting for this. I know before I sat in this seat, I had spoken with Dr. Green about it. I think it is a very good lift considering that we have a capital bond campaign coming up. Dr. Green, I would ask if you and your team, along with Barton Mallow, particularly just because they are on that side of the fence, but for the sinking fund dollars, if we could try to get something out to explain to the community a difference between a millage, a sinking fund,
A debt.
a bond, a debt, very
Non-voting
plain
bonds.
language, and then to Trustee Hicks' point, what we've done with the sinking fund dollars, how we've done it, and where we're at now.
Absolutely.
I think that would be awesome.
And Board President, if I may, we will try to do a T-chart to compare. If you recall, we did the non-voted bond to expedite those dollars for some of the larger projects. So essentially, the sinking fund dollars that we pull into the district every year for the 10 years goes to pay back those non-voted bonds. If we were to wait the entire 10 years, it would be a little less than $1 million each year. And unfortunately, our projects are significantly greater than $1 million. So we did the non-voted bond route to expedite those dollars. So I think a T-chart explaining that might be helpful because people are still expecting us to receive those sinking fund dollars for the next 7 years, I think we have left on it. And we want to show that we've really invested that money on the front end to ensure that some of the larger issues can be addressed.
Also, one other lift, Ms. Venable brought up the pictures of the roof before. If there's a possibility, because this was a large chunk of change, that we could potentially put a before and after. People are visually driven. I think it would be good to see the work. We could never get on a roof
But to your point, we had a drone fly over the buildings, so we do have we have footage.
Okay.
Trying to plan ahead, especially for the bond proposal. So we do have that drone footage of all of our facilities, and once the work is complete, we will definitely take the drone back up to ensure that everyone can see the roofs.
Thank you, great lift.
Yeah, and we'll also have daily reports just on the status of the progress of the roof work.
When would this get started?
That's actually contingent upon tonight's approval and going back to the contractor. So what Trustee Hicks lifted with respect to the supply chain, once they get the go-ahead, it will jumpstart our ordering of the materials. And so we're looking at closer to the end of summer school, because we have summer school at Bernie. And our intent is to finish it obviously before winter, but supply chain issues are going to be an issue for us.
And one of the reasons we're utilizing Bernie this summer for summer school is due in part to the new HVAC system and keeping our young scholars cool throughout these summer months.
Right.
Do we have any picture, I'm sorry.
No.
Do we have any pictures inside of the leaks?
Buckets and
Oh, I'm sure I can
With
find
buckets
several.
and-
I'm sure we
yeah.
have ample
That would
photos
speak
of those.
volumes to the why.
Yes,
Yes,
sir. We do.
yes, definitely. And I know that Barton Mallow took a significant number of photos as well when we did the walkthroughs.
Yeah. Video, pictures, yeah.
anything else? Trustee Johnson?
This is only somewhat related, but I'm wondering if it's feasible for us to have like visuals of what's coming to certain properties as like we're working on these large projects. Like if you go downtown, you see the Hudson site and what's coming. If you go to Chick-fil-A, you see on the fence that there's going to be a Chick-fil-A coming. So I'm wondering if we can like display those same things for our communities and what additional effort that would take.
The renderings will be produced between the time we meet with the Department of Treasury, the time the board signs off on the application for the bond proposal, and when you actually call for the vote. That is what the architects will be doing, developing those renderings to ensure that we're able to show our community what it is they have to look forward to over the next 10 years.
So that's between June 21st and July 26th?
They will be working on the
Okay.
renderings. I
To be
can't
clear.
guarantee that they
Yep,
will have them
I need it clear.
completed.
Got it.
That would be our expectation. However, some of the facilities have a lot more to be designed than others. And right now, with us still developing the proposal and the constant changes based on the feedback of our community, we didn't want to put something in print that our community could hold us to, given that we are taking all of their feedback seriously and making the mid-course corrections along the way.
Would those renderings be available to see? Like if I were to drive past the 12-mile property and you see all this construction happening, would it show coming soon?
We would have signage out front, and one of the things that our consultants recommended inside for our students to see, they have an orange dot campaign where they put an orange dot on everything that is going to be replaced. So you walk in and you see a lot of orange dots, and initially they thought that that was not going to be appealing to some, but the students actually said, can we have a few more dots because we want this changed or that changed. So it caught hold relatively fast. To your point, and if you look at some of the neighboring districts where the same architect and construction company are currently working, you do see that they have the signage out, and we will have something very similar.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from Ms. Venable at this time? Hearing none, thank you, Ms. Venable.
Thank you.
I move that report 60-108 Bernie K-8 roof replacement be opened and approved.
Support.
It's been properly moved and supported. Any other discussion on this matter? Hearing none, Board Secretary, please call for the vote.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Joyce?
Yes.
Trustee Bland?
Yes.
Trustee Hicks?
Yes.
Trustee Smith-Thomas?
Yes.
Trustee Benison?
Yes.
Myself, yes.
Motion carried. Report 60-107, Head Start non-federal match waiver. Before Dr. Green, we get started on this, based on what I read as well as with the roof, this might want to be actionable as well,
If it is the
from what I
pleasure-
interpreted it.
If it's the pleasure of the board,
Okay.
we do ask that we move this forward to ensure that we get it to Region 5 of Head Start, and our young scholars have the opportunity to continue uninterrupted. So I would ask Director Hill to join me, or join us this evening in explaining the non-federal match waiver.
Good evening, Dr. Green, board, and community.
Good evening.
Are there any questions as it relates to the request for non-federal match waiver for 2021-22 program year?
Director Hill, if you could just explain a little bit for our viewing audience.
Yes, ma'am.
Relative to what that is. I know our trustees have the report, but not everyone understands the,
Yes, ma'am.
the language that we use with the federal government. So
Yes, ma'am.
just a brief synopsis.
So we are required as a Head Start grantee to ensure that 20% of our overall grant is, we have non-federal waiver. We have in-kind. And that simply means that there's volunteers, be it parents, it can be like when you all attend the meetings, policy council meetings, when we have volunteers and when we have our community partners come into the building and provide services, that is counted as in-kind dollars. And we're responsible for 20% of our overall grant, which is approximately $412,000. So we were able to meet some of it, but this year we were not able to meet all of it. So we are requesting, and if you don't meet your non-federal match waiver, what happens is the Head Start program then can take that amount of money away from your overall grant, which of course will impact operating and providing services for our children and our families.
Thank you. That's why I wanted you to lift that last part relative to the continuity of services.
Yes, ma'am. Are there any questions?
I would like to take this moment to thank you for all that you've done for the Bussey Center. I believe this will be my last time seeing you at the podium.
Yes, ma'am.
It would be remiss to not thank you for all that you've done and the time that you spent here in Southfield Public School District. So thank you, Director Hill.
And thank you for the opportunity to serve. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. I'm always a phone call away if you ever need me, but you all will be fine. We're leaving you in great shape.
Board President, I do have a question for Dr. Hill.
Sure.
How does that equivalate to hours based on the grant dollar amounts and the hours that are needed? I know it's 20%, but for someone that might not understand, is that 400 hours?
So what it relates to is we assign a dollar amount based on the type of volunteer. So as an example, a parent that comes in and volunteers in the classroom is worth $23.99. It just depends. We had pediatric nurses that we wanted to come into our program and volunteer. Their match waiver would be $50 an hour. So it just depends on what the service that you are providing comes up to.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Trustees, any other questions for Director Hill? Thank you, Director Hill.
Thank you.
Trustee Hicks.
I move that report 60-107, Head Start non-federal match waiver, be opened and approved.
Support.
It's been properly moved and supported. Any further discussion? Board Secretary, please call for the vote.
Trustee Smith-Thomas? Yes. Trustee Venison?
Yes.
Trustee Joyce?
Yes.
Trustee Hicks?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Bland?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Unanimous?
Motion carried. Monthly financial report.
Board President, the monthly financial report and monthly bill disbursement report were emailed to all trustees in their entirety. The finance team is here this evening if there are any questions relative to those reports.
Trustees, is there any discussion, any questions for the finance team? Hearing none. Bill
I did.
disbursement. Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Hicks.
When do we have our audit for,
Planning Moran. That is
It comes, they start the end of June 30th because that's the end of our fiscal year. So the months of July, August, September, they are gathering, doing samples, et cetera, and we receive the report usually in the month of November, early December at the absolute latest.
Do they go over internal controls
They do.
every year?
They do.
Do they ask for additional scope?
We can always inquire if we want additional scope to the work that they're doing, yes.
Okay.
We do have a new auditor this year. You may recall Holly Stefanski that came out with Paul Bryant the last few years. She has moved on. I've yet to meet the new auditor that will work with our team. Paul is still on board, of course, as the vice president. As soon as I am introduced to that individual, I will make sure that that individual comes to meet the trustees as well.
One of the reasons for my inquiry is that neighboring districts have had some challenge as of late, and not questioning our team and what they're doing, not doing, but it's just making me a little more cautious.
I concur, and you may recall that one of the first things I asked you for
Was the forensic audit?
It was the forensic audit on
Yeah.
several areas. So I'm a fan of audits, particularly when you see other organizations go off the rails. So I'm not opposed to additional scope and welcome the conversation. This year we did have some additional work with Eric Conforti, who's also from Plant Moran, in a few particular areas, particularly with the federal dollars coming to us through ESSER, GEARS, and all the other acronyms that came out. So he did have a chance to look at that early on, and we'll continue that conversation as well. But that was already pre-approved by the trustees.
Okay, thank you.
Trustees, any further discussion or questions? Hearing none. Public participation. If you wish to address the board regarding a school-related issue that has not yet been resolved by school administration, please submit a comment card immediately. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual. As a matter of fairness, speakers with complaints against individuals are asked not to mention any persons by name. Complaints concerning employees pursuant to Board Policy 9130 should be brought to the attention of school principals or other administrators before coming to the Board of Education. Your cooperation is appreciated. Crystal Sanford Brown? Sure, you can. You can come to the podium if you like. Okay.
Thank you so much. My back is I wanted to thank the board for approving to have 2 individuals from the Policy Council for BUSSY and also Mr. Joyce attend the National Head Start Conference. And as Ms. Hill just shared some information, I wanted to let you know how beneficial it was to attend that conference to get information. As the Policy Council, we're responsible for quite a bit. That's federal money, and you want to make sure those dollars are spent accurately and that we're doing what we're supposed to do. And that conference helped out a huge, huge deal in understanding the complexities of the grant. So I hope, I don't know if while we're looking for a new director, if I will be on the Policy Council again next year, I'm hoping. But I'm hoping that, again, that's something that you all will continue if the monies are available. So I just wanted to raise that up and how beneficial it was to attend. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Andrea Wright?
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to piggyback on someone was talking about the shrinking fund, capital bond, and selling of buildings. It's our community. I don't know who handles our web. There's a parent communication on Facebook. There's a lot of miscommunication. And I don't know if there's someone in our district can oversee some of the bad information that's out there where our parents won't get bad information. Because some saying, we'll sell the buildings and we don't need a capital bond. People don't understand. Just like this roof is $1.3 million. If we sell the buildings, I don't think we still have enough money to fix the problems that we have. So I think we need some way to put what the shrinking funds, exactly what the money was spent for, and then the understanding of capital bond, and then even selling the buildings. I think our parents need a clear understanding exactly what those funds are for, and this miscommunication, because then when you get bad communication, other parents on there, that's right, they need to sell the buildings, before we pass this capital bond. But we need the capital bond. It's very important for our district, for security, AVAX, everything. Our district needs it. So I think, I'm not sure how we can address these Facebook bad communication, and because I know we're not responsible, but somebody has to react to some of this information to make sure it doesn't keep going, this bad communication. So I just want us to find a way where we can solve that problem. And that's it. I think we did a great job for this school year. We survived, so thank you all.
I know our habit is not to respond to public participation, but I did have a conversation with Dr. Green, I believe it was yesterday. I can't, it's getting blurred. I made a request based on a lot of misinformation. My request was that Southfield Public Schools social media pages reaches out, posts, and asks to become members of anything that affects our community. So whether it's the villagers, Southfield parents, I know there's a lot of them out there. I will give this caveat, just because the district requests to become a friend or to follow does not mean that we will get accepted. But we are requesting that on all social media pages and content. Dr. Green and I have talked at length about how we post. We need to post more intentionally. We need to be able to address things before it's addressed for us. So I do appreciate that lift, and I had spoken with Dr. Green about this and actually forgot to mention it. We've got so much going on. Dr. Green can expound a little bit more on how the district communication is going to take on that task.
Absolutely, and one of the things that we did not want to occur was to get information out prior to us garnering the feedback of our stakeholders. So we asked that it not be posted prior to us garnering the feedback and making the necessary mid-course corrections. Of course, not everyone took that advice, and they decided to post it anyway, and they posted a lot of misinformation. One post that I saw, and I'm not on social media, but I did receive a post that stated we had $100 million. That is absolutely not correct information. The sinking fund was to the tune of $10 million over 10 years, which is why I made the statement earlier about it being approximately $1 million per year. There was another comment relative to the mills that we levy. Actually, for Oakland County, we are the third lowest levying district in Oakland County, and the two below us are at 0. So those are important facts that our community need to know, and we are ramping up a significant campaign to ensure that the factual information gets out to our community. To your point, or to the point lifted by I know she's just transitioning from Area Council PTA president, but she's still through June 30th. I'm going to call her Area Council PTA president. Lifted by her, the last building that the district sold was for $1 million. $1 million would not cover a roof. It would not cover HVAC. It would barely cover a parking lot, and that would be on one of the smaller campuses. So people have a misconception as to what buildings are valued at, even present day. So all of those caveats will be lifted when we go out to the community, and we will provide factual information and talking points for everyone that is willing to listen and willing to carry the message forward, because our students do indeed deserve state-of-the-art facilities. We as a district have not invested in our schools the way that other districts have over the last several decades. Our buildings date back to the 50s and 60s, and to be quite honest, it's embarrassing to have the 8th highest performing high school in the state of Michigan and not have them in a state-of-the-art facility to match their intellectual abilities. So there will be more information relative to that forthcoming.
Thank you, Dr. Green. There's no further public participation. For the good of the order, trustees, Trustee Smith-Thomas.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. So regarding the Oakland School Board of Education elections, 3 of the 28 Oakland County school districts did not vote.
Wow.
That happens. Yeah. So as it was on the night we had to attend one district, they had a good reason. They actually had a board meeting and they were in the process of bringing in a new superintendent. So the person who was supposed to come and submit their vote wasn't able to attend in time before the ballots closed. But the other districts, I'm not going to say their name, to my understanding, they didn't have an excuse. So, but nonetheless, Steve Gottlieb from Troy School District was elected, as well as the incumbent Connie Williams. So those were the two selected with the top votes. As far as the OCSBA and the MASB annual awards meeting, that's tomorrow. I do recall seeing a couple of trustees. I know Vice President Joyce is on a roll with his award. I want to be like him when I grow up. I promise he is just really knocking it out. So I did recall seeing him. I think, Board President, you're receiving an award as well, right? And forgive me if anyone else was listed. But everyone will be in attendance. Are we all going to be in attendance? I don't know if you were able.
Not everyone.
I will be working for that other job.
Okay. So I'll pick up any awards for any trustees who are not able to attend. Last year, we did receive 2 awards as a district that I did bring back and a plaque. So I don't recall seeing any district awards, though, just individual trustees. But to the community, I think that it is worth noting that this board is an honor board, well-developed, well-educated, attend several of the courses and the SBA coursework and conferences and so on and so forth to be developed as a board. And so every year there's an award dinner where we are acknowledged both individually as well as district-wide for those achievements. There are 7 levels that you can achieve. I'm going to toot my own horn. I have 5 of those 7, but Vice President Joyce is about 6.5. He's knocking it out. So like I said, I want to be like him when I grow up. So to our newest trustee, I do want to encourage you to get on top of getting those courses within your first year. I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to lie here, if within your first year you have not completed your first year award, you don't have a problem with me, okay? I'm going to tell you that because we do take that training seriously. In order for us to hold our superintendent, which then trickles down to the staff and the teachers accountable, we have to hold ourselves accountable as well to being educated in that way. And so, and we know that as far as at the state level, there was even some talk about legislation mandating that trustees are certified, at least the first level certification. So, yeah, so we're well on our way with that if they do decide to put that law in place.
Board President, if I may, the community is listening. When you go to the conferences, we received an email from MASB asking for the board and the district administration to present at the next ALC. So I just wanted you to know that people are definitely listening to you and carrying forward the message because they've reached out to us to request the presence of some representatives for next year.
Nice. So that's wonderful to hear. And you can definitely put me on that committee, Board President, if we decide to move forward with that. Moving on, I do have a question or regarding the mid-year evaluation review for the superintendent, where we are with that. I know we voted some time ago to do that, and now we're at June, which would have been mid-year. So do we have an update?
So I believe I did request of Dr. Green. We talked about a refresher or an introduction for the newest board members to get with the tool. That has been lined up, I believe. I saw an email from Scott in here.
Scott Corber wrote back approximately an hour ago.
Okay.
I was with Gary Collins on Friday, who is the actual author behind the tool, along with the other members of Collins and Blaha. And Mr. Corba said that he would be more than happy to schedule the training at the behest of the trustees when the 4 new trustees needed and could avail themselves.
So when we finished, I was going to kind of have an offline conversation with the 4 to find out when we could take that tool. Trustee Hicks lifted July a little earlier, asking if we were meeting. I know that the evaluation training was something we wanted to have before we did the mid-year. I believe there is some specific verbiage in Dr. Green's contract that refers to what the mid-year is. If July is on the table for the board and or the superintendent, I think we would need to have that conversation. I am requesting that we try to get that evaluation tool training up and running as soon as possible, because the previous board president was lining that up, and of course we had some change that happened, and I think a lot got tossed to the wayside in our.
Can I add, because I believe from my recollection, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but when we voted on the mid-year, the review, it was meant to not carry an evaluation rating with it. So then my thought was the training could happen at the same time that the review was happening, so that it would be sort of a walkthrough of how to not only use the tool, but then to also give some valuable feedback for the superintendent as we continue throughout the rest of this year, so that in December, when we actually submit the evaluation, we'll be on task and in compliance with that.
I have no objections to that. As far as the 4 members, if you are okay with having a hands-on, I guess we would call it a hands-on training session to use the tool as we go through the mid-year review, if that is acceptable, I am fine with that.
It's fine by me.
Yes.
Dr. Green, if we could go through schedule-wise, I know there's a lot going on, finding out if Scott is available for that type of exercise, and if we could get something out to the board with a few dates, if that is acceptable to the board, if that is the wish of the board, the desire of the board.
Absolutely. We will work to align all schedules with Collins and Blaha, the trustees. Am I hearing an additional meeting separate and apart from the ones that we already have scheduled?
We have a study session, which I believe at that study session, we're going to be presented with some documentation regarding services. Can't remember. Tell me. There was
one of the things we were discussing was that of the dissolution of property.
Yes, we have the dissolution of property, and we have one other report that we had tabled at a study session that we needed to address. If you all remember, it was...
Was it the operating procedures?
No, it was our Kelly Services.
Absolutely.
So we were bringing that to the next study session, if you guys recall. because we did not have all the information we needed to act on that. And we know that is imperative to getting 22-23 off to a good start. So those two things are already on the table for the study session. If you all feel that we can move through those rather swiftly, I don't know what the whole evaluation process looks like, or I'm sorry, the review looks like. So if the time is available, do we want to fit it into the June study session? I'm looking for your thoughts.
I think you need to look that way first.
Yeah, we need to find out if we have the availability of Scott, and if Dr. Green is willing to participate.
And I would also need to ensure that my attorney is available to be present on that evening as well.
Understood. So we will get that squared away, line up some dates. It sounds like we need to maybe have some options as far as dates are concerned. Trustee Smith-Thomas, I will get back with you and the rest of the board as soon as Dr. Green touches base with Scott and her attorney for dates regarding that review.
Okay. And a couple more items, since we're going down the list here. Do we have an update? I know the last time I asked, there was, the calendar was still in negotiations. Do we at least have an update with the first day of school?
We have a tentative date. We, of course, it has not been ratified, but we did forward out that tentative schedule for everyone. And let me recall that.
While you're finding that, I'll keep going.
No, well, actually, it just popped up. The first day of school for students is going to be on August the 29th, which is a Monday. The staff report back on August 23rd this year.
And August 23rd, would that be our opening day?
Yes, ma'am, that's the district-wide opening day in the morning. And I will re-forward this calendar back to all the trustees as well. It's of particular interest to our community to note that the winter recess this year is much later than usual based on the common calendar of Oakland County school districts as well as our neighboring county. That being stated, the winter recess does not begin until the end of the day on December 23rd because the actual holidays fall on the weekends this year. Therefore, our students will not return and classes will not resume until January 9th of 2023.
Thank you. I'm going to ask, and I made this request some time ago, but now I'm going to ask very specifically, because I really don't want to get into all of the details of the concerns I'm having, but if we could plan out a study session around our early childhood education transition and plan and vision. I'm going to very high level mention some of the concerns I'm having and desires I would like to see. I'm concerned about the self-assessment results as I look very closely at it. Not just specifically the report we have today, but some trends I've been seeing over some time. I'm concerned about our GSRP, and I think it really would be beneficial if we, as we look at transitioning the director of Head Start, that we also look at a GSRP, even director or coordinator. And I can go into more detail if you would like, but I think that if we could have a study session around this piece, I think we could really perhaps hash out, or I can email, however you would like, through the chair, the superintendent, to like to hear my concerns regarding that.
Trustee Smith-Thomas, I just want to be clear. Do you want to, the study session is to get a better understanding and to have a discussion around some of the trends that you've been seeing in early childhood, as well as concerns around GSRP? Is there I know you brought up you could email the superintendent. Is there an offline conversation that you desire to have, or is this for the knowledge of the board and?
Well, so it's twofold. Absolutely, there are some historical pieces as it relates to the GSRP that I think this board should we should have a conversation about, and I think that with Director Hill transitioning out, this would be the perfect opportunity for us to really talk about what that next vision looks like as we move forward.
Any discussion from any other trustees? I'm only one, so if that is the will of the board, we can definitely schedule a study session. I know based upon how we move with the next study session, depending on scheduling, timing, and availability, would we like to put that on the agenda for the June study session, contingent upon whether or not we can get Collins and Blaha and Dr. Green is prepared and aligned to move forward with a review? If we're going to push the review into July, then would the administration have time for this full study session on? Yes.
Board President, I just want to lift that the June 28th meeting is also where we do the budget review. Because that has to be turned into the state by June 30th. So we always hold that last study session for all the trustees to have ample opportunity to dig into the budget. We do the lunch and learns in advance. We go through the complete budget presentation. We have truth in taxation on that same day at an earlier time. So I would be remiss if I didn't lift that into the conversation, because that is a requirement of the law that we have that turned into the state of Michigan.
So we have both June 21st and June 28th.
June 21st, we have to.
So June 21st is the day in which we meet with the Department of Treasury, and that evening, the team, the entire bond proposal team, will be coming before the board to meet with you to discuss the conversation, having previously been facilitated earlier that day with the Department of Treasury, the results and the actual application that will be submitted for your approval and signature to go forward with the bond proposal. Also on that evening, at the behest of Treasurer Johnson, apparently on the night that, again, I wasn't present, there was some conversation regarding the zero carbon footprint and how we can, as a district, look at some alternative methods for energy conservation. Treasurer Johnson did find an organization to come out and present. They have forwarded me all of their information, so they too are scheduled to be here on that evening as well.
Okay, so I'm going to email my questions. I'm going to email my questions.
Understood.
Okay. Continuing on, so in addition to the summer school, what academic and forgive me if you already mentioned this, Superintendent, what academic and or enrichment supports are we providing to families this year? Do we have bridge books or any other type of support?
Ironically, we just had this conversation yesterday. We don't have the bridge books. However, all of our online platforms are available to all of our families this summer. We did make all of those resources available to continue. We have literacy packets that went out. We have reading competitions. We have science items that Miss Yvonne Hammond Taylor Green can expound on. I didn't call her middle name, so We have a plethora of information that has been shared with our families, and we also have that information being added to our webpage for our families to access. We have the reading list. We have the partnership with the library that Ms. Hines worked on as well. So we have a lot relative to the area, the 4 core content areas. Then we also have the Camp Innovation that we hosted last year for the first time in partnership with General Motors. They are once again funding that camp to run the first week in August. Keep me honest, team. Okay. And so those are the things that come to mind, but we will have a comprehensive list of all of those items available for you and for our community.
And will, to the point Board President made earlier, will we provide any type of visual supports to images to share social media wise, so that ambassadors, community ambassadors such as Ms. Wright or any, other parents or even the trustees want to share that these things are available?
Absolutely. We will ensure that the team that works on our graphics will put together some images so that we can readily post those items for all to share. We are also interviewing 3 very stellar candidates for Director of Communications. Next week, I believe, Mr. Jackson and I had an opportunity to go through all of the potential applicants and narrowed the field down to 3 for interview. So we're pretty excited about the credentials coming with those 3 individuals.
And then the last item I have is regarding our community outreach for kindergarten enrollment. I was approached by a director in the community regarding not having received any district materials. We had spoken before about people going out. I didn't know who was identified to do it. I know I certainly offered to go out into the community and take our district materials for families in the child care centers.
So I know specifically, and I'm not saying this person's name to throw them under the bus, but to actually compliment this person, Mr. Jackson personally delivered packets to 30 different centers in our immediate area. So if there's one that we've missed, it was simply because it was not identified. But we will definitely continue to take, if you can let us know which facility did not receive that information. He personally delivered packets to 30 separate facilities.
Okay. And I'll take some as well.
Okay.
I'm in quite a few centers, one of my other jobs, but yeah, so I'll take those as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
Trustee Hicks?
Any update on the, I'm not sure if that's the right title, the head of HR?
The Chief of Talent Management position, the applicant pool is very shallow. To say the least. We are looking at some different recruitment strategies because the ones in which we've participated in the past just simply don't work anymore. So we will continue with those strategies and keep you posted on their return by way of those new strategies. And we're open if you have some thoughts as well.
Yep. We'll talk offline.
Okay. I will say that we have had much success with our current interim situation.
Okay. Thank you.
Through the board, or through the chair, if I may. President Bland, you alluded to congratulating some of our graduating classes. I just wanted to also chime in and thank our educators, our principals, our staff, our administration, parents, grandparents, Dr. Green, colleagues, uncles, aunts, and those who drive our students and those who feed our children, the meals that they provide for our students. Thank you. Congratulations to all of the students who were promoted, graduated, or just moving up. The work is not yet done. It's important that they understand, and our students and parents understand, that we have to be diligent. We have to use those packets. We have to utilize the resources that have been put out there. As our students want to take a 65-day break, it is not a break. Education is vital. To the parents, please continue to check the expectation levels and continue learning throughout the year. continue to make sure that our students are learning and doing what they need to do. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Nelson Mandela. I just want to leave you with those thoughts for our parents to make sure that they understand how vital it is to keep a pulse on your children through this summer as the world has changed, but we have to change in a better direction.
Thank you, trustee. Anyone else for the good of the order? Hearing none. Let's see here.
Future meetings.
Oh, thank you. Future meetings, Tuesday, June 21st, special board meeting at 6 p.m., JWE. Tuesday, June 28th, special bond meeting. Is that backwards? At
Truth and taxation.
Truth and taxation. At 6 o'clock, and we will have our special bond meeting at 6:30. The time is 8:17. Meeting is adjourned.